What's up, everyone? Just want to make a video about my testimony, who I was before I was a Christian, my upbringing, my lifestyle before being a Christian, and how God came into my life and the way He did it. So I just want to start with my name. My name is Damien. I'm from Pennsylvania, and I grew up with two parents. My mom was very young. She was about 19 when she had me. I believe my father was 18 or 19 as well. And, they were very young, so, they didn't have a good grasp. Also, I come from like a poor family. I had my grandparents, and that was really it. That lived a town over where I grew up. And so that was really as big as our family was. In the proximity, and we were the ones that were close. So I had a pretty small family, and so eventually time goes on. I grew up, and my dad ended up leaving at, I think I was about 4 or 5. So my father left, and I don't remember too much about that. And also I'll bring this up later about my father, but we haven't spoken 22 years after that, but I'll say that for later. So anyway, my mother had to quit school. She had to quit everything because she had to take care of me. And she was, eventually we ended up leaving where we were living. We lived in a small apartment, and so I ended up living with my grandparents for a while when I was a young kid. And eventually we got a house a couple towns over. And so what happened was I just grew up, in the same house for 20 plus years. And so in that span of time, I remember as a kid, I was very shy, but I enjoyed playing. I enjoyed being outside. I was very sporadic. I was kind of chaotic. I was kind of crazy. I would cause problems in the neighborhood, fun, I would steal people's mail, all this crazy stuff when I was a kid. Break windows, all this stuff. It's because I didn't have a father figure, right? So I wasn't taught things, there were certain things I was kind of just on my own with my mother's care, but my mother could only teach me so much, So it's so important to have this family or have parents in the household. But eventually, actually, when I was about 5 or 6, maybe 7, I think, my stepdad came into my life, and he's still here. He's still ever since. But it was hard for me having a stepdad. I felt I always had a hard time calling anybody like my father. Like, I couldn't call him just my dad, or I always called him my stepdad. And him and my mother would there'd be a lot of arguments. There would be a lot of chaos in the house, and I'm just being honest, this is my testimony, and I love them. I love them very much, and we reconciled everything. But yeah, it was hard, I was going out, I sheltered myself in my room, and I just would stay by myself. I'd play video games for hours and hours and hours. And I played video games before I met my stepdad. That was kind of like something I really loved to do. And my grandparents would always, my grandmother would always fund my habit of video games, because that's like every time Christmas, that's what I asked for my birthday. And so I just spent so many times playing video games, so many hours, so many, in fact, that the habit just kept growing. Just play video games, kind of disregard everything else in my life, didn't really care about anything. So yeah, I was kind of avoidant. I grew up into this avoidant personality, to where I would avoid my parents. I would avoid a lot of people. I avoided school. I hated school. I didn't care. I just grew up in a household that didn't have much structure or rules, so I didn't, so when I came back home, it was kind of just chaos. And when I went to school, I'd get bullied. But as well, I was also a bully, and unfortunately, I was surrounded by kids who bullied other people, and I fell into that mentality around middle school. Thankfully, that broke off around high school. Of course, I wasn't perfect. I still wasn't a Christian. I ended up started smoking weed in like 8th grade, and got surrounded with, kids in the neighborhood that weren't very, very similar to me, but they just didn't have upbringing. They didn't have a good upbringing. Their parents, were kind of checked out of their lives. And so when I was growing up, I just was around these kids that were kind of causing these troubles, and I would cause trouble, and then there would be like these things where we were just problems in our neighborhood. And I grew up in a place pretty big. It's a county. It's a big place. It's got like a couple 100,000 people in it. So there's a lot of people you meet. You meet a lot of people. You meet like good people. You meet a lot of bad people. You get kind of mixed in with these things. And so I was very directionless. I was very depressed growing up, very suicidal since I was around 7, 8 years old. I remember holding a knife up to my wrist to my mother and saying like I was ready to kill myself, and I always hated how I looked. I hated myself, I just hated myself, and I always blamed myself for everything. I was very self-critical, very hard on myself. If I got bad grades, I was like, oh, well, I'm stupid, whatever, who cares, like school sucks, this and that, right? So all I wanted to do, as I got older, I kept getting bullied. I was a very skinny kid. All I did was play video games. I had some friends, but, had some good times and stuff, but, there's a lot of negativity in my life. So I grew up, I developed this antisocial personality to where it's like I can't even look women in the eye. I can't even talk to women. I can't really make friends. I kind of just, like I said, avoid people because I was getting bullied. I was getting bullied in elementary school for smelling like cigarettes. I got bullied in middle school because how I looked or whatever. And then I got bullied in high school slightly just because I guess I was seen as an easy target. Like I said, I was skinny. And so when I was about a freshman, this is where things really started getting kind of crazy. I started really researching, like, what's the point of life? I really, like I said, I was suicidal, depressed. And the freshman year, I remember YouTube. I loved YouTube. I stayed on YouTube all the time. I just felt led to say, like, my mother, she did drink a lot, and not too much, but she drank, and like I said, I love my parents, so if they ever see this, it's nothing personal. I'm just, and so these things really, they kind of hurt me, they hurt you, I know they're just trying to have fun, and that's what their intention was, but it hurts to see disorder, right? And so it's like, okay, now in my mind, I'm trying to figure out, like, what's the meaning of life? Why am I in this situation? Why is everything so crazy? Why is everything so chaotic? So I started getting into tarot cards. I found those in my house. My mother kind of partook in these kind of new age practices on occasion, and it was palm reading, stuff like that. I started like kind of remember these memories I have of these things, and she had these books, so I'd read these books sometimes and see what's going on, and it intrigued me. But like I said, I was watching YouTube and found this man, UFC fighter named Conor McGregor, somebody I really, really respected and looked up to. When I found him, I almost like made him my god, or made him my idol, or made him the ideal, person I wanted to be. And so what happened was I wanted his body, so I'd work out, and I ended up getting into fitness, and I wanted to be a fighter because, I thought it was the coolest thing. And then next thing you know, I'm kind of in the neighborhood. There's fights happening, and friends that I'm surrounded with, they're always fighting. And mentally, I'm in that mentality of like, this, I think I just want to be a fighter, and so what happened was I just had a lot of anger and bitterness, and so I was ready like for fights, but I was also at the same time, I didn't like hurting people, deep down, I knew I was just a broken person, and like I said, I grew up with a lot of hurt, suicide, depression, thoughts every day for years, and I'm smoking weed and all this stuff, and I've always never had confidence my whole life, never had any confidence, never thought I could have confidence. So that's why I put Conor McGregor on like a pedestal. I was like, man, this guy can speak. He looks like he's in shape. He has a wife. People respect him. People laugh at him. He's funny. He was like the ultimate ideal of like, what a man should be, quote unquote. Like, really, looking back, it's not. It's toxic. There's a lot of toxicity there. There's a lot of things that are, not good. And so, anyway, I started looking into astrology, started looking into law of attraction, looking into these new age practices, and really testing them out and trying to kind of grow my philosophy. I consider myself like somewhat of a philosopher kind of person. I just took from everything and created my own, belief system. And so anyway, I got in shape, made me feel good. I noticed women were looking at me more. I noticed that I got respect more just off my appearance. And I just copied these people. I just copied Conor McGregor. I copied people I looked up to online and YouTube, and I just did thousands of hours of research on different topics, as well as playing thousands of hours of video games. And so I lived like a loner lifestyle. I just was alone all the time in my room and smoke weed in my room and just play video games and learn this and grow and do some workouts and try to build myself and, how to get women, this, that, and the other. Just trying to be the best with what I had. I wanted to get out of the struggle. Like I said, we grew up poor. We didn't have money. So there was a lot of times where I was thinking about selling drugs, and I didn't get into it, thankfully. But like my mindset was just getting money. Money was like the goal. Being great was the goal. Being like a bad boy was the goal. It was just all these things that were just toxic and worldly. So I started dabbling into this witchcraft, and I did this spell, and I think I was a freshman, and it actually worked. This is what was kind of crazy about this whole thing, is it worked. And a woman I grew up with, behind where I lived, I think she always had a crush on me, but I never liked her. But when I did this spell, the same day, I swear to God, I shouldn't swear to God, sorry. But she knocked on my door, and I haven't seen her in years. So it was kind of like really insane when she just knocked on my door that same day. Not even that long, maybe an hour later. So I was like, okay, that's not a coincidence, And I always knew there was a God. Even when I was a kid, I asked my parents, is God, like, are we robots? I used to say that, are we robots? Because in my mind, I didn't understand what was happening. What is life? What are we doing here? Like, what's the purpose? Like, I didn't understand the concept of God, but I knew in my heart, even at the age of like 10 or 8 or 9 or whatever, that there was a God. So I was on this pursuit, this pursuit to find this thing, and I'm running out of time here, but eventually I came to the end of myself. I became very suicidal to the point where I was ready to kill myself, and I was doing all these things, like I said, these new age practices, but they weren't helping my heart. They weren't fixing my problems, and I thought they would. You think you get the money, okay, you're gonna be okay, but no. A lot of people that get money, they end up killing themselves, right? Or they hate their lives. So anyway, I was sitting in my bed one day, and there was this TV show called The 700 Club, and I'm gonna have to do a part 2 of this video. But I was sitting on my bed, ready to contemplate suicide. I was like, this is the last resort. This is all I have left. It was just on Antenna TV. The TV channel 700 Club was on. I don't know how it got on. It was just on. It was divine intervention. And so I accepted the gospel.